Okay, so I've been following this channel for a bit, and this video kind of crossed my stuff as I was doing today's upload. And the topic was actually really interesting to me, and that's obviously why I looked at it. But there's a lot here that he talks about that I think is really kind of like crosses over with a lot of things that, I like to talk about. So I figured I'd add my 2 cents in too in a longer form than just like a small comment.
So I've been seeing a pretty big shift in the general public's opinion on new technology. Not just old people, it's younger people as well. People younger than me, people my age, people of all
PewDiePie and
ages,
yeah.
are starting to shift their perspective on if newer technology is actually making our lives easier or it's making it more complicated and honestly more annoying. So back in the day, like the early 2000s and the 90s, and I would maybe even say like around 2010, when new technology was coming out, it was solving problems, it was making life easier, like computers coming out, cell phones, TV and entertainment products getting better, iPods, being able to have like thousands of songs in your pocket. It seemed like technology was solving tons of problems we had and was making our lives easier.
Now, in a lot of ways, yes. There's a peak of like, okay, we've got portable MP3 players. We can play our music on this little small clip form factor. And it was actually really cool. The early smartphones come along and it's like, hey, look, you can have your music and your phone in the same device. And it seemed like it was a really cool thing to have, like everything like right there. You were actually like doing things and getting things done. Like you had you had a lot of things coming out that just seemed to actually enhance your life versus detract from it. The video game market was improving. It felt like you felt free to do the things that you wanted to, but at the same time, you had the technology that made it easier to do those things.
And now with technology, it seems, and I would say I think it's around like 2015 or so, where that kind of plateaued, and now new technology is becoming more burdensome on our lives, and the things that used to make our lives great are becoming worse products. So I was at Epic Universe a few weeks ago.
Okay. Before he really gets into it. Yeah, it kind of feels that way. In a lot of ways, a lot of technology now wants to track you. And it's got these things built in to gatekeep you from doing the things that you want with your device. There were still a lot of cases where you couldn't quite do the things that you wanted with your device, even back early on. So, like, take the, early iPhones and things like that. In order to get cool new features that Apple would eventually steal, you had to jailbreak your iPod Touch or your iPhone in order to get those. There were even some features, if we go to, Rockbox, and what do you know, it's right there in my history. Rockbox that provided, let me see, release, manual installation. They've got a whole host of devices that they support, and I can't remember where that device status right there. So you've got like the early iPods, iPod Classic, iPod Video, and this enabled you to do all kinds of things with your MP3 player of varying models and your iPods, including installing Doom onto it and playing Doom on your device. So it was a pretty cool time to be around, and now everything has just gotten a lot harder to do things like that. Even in some cases to where some versions of Android are so much harder to customize and theme just because of the way that they lock things down for you.
And we were eating at a couple of the restaurants, and obviously there's other people around us. And a new thing restaurants do now is they don't have menus, or honestly, they don't even have servers for the most part. They just have a QR code in the center of the table that you can scan and get your food delivered to you and all this stuff. And someone will
Okay, so fortunately, there's still some restaurants that don't do this. Chick-fil-A does not do this. They still have people that take your order, but the person is using technology. So you're not reliant on an app to get your order, but you still have an option for ordering online on your own and picking up your order. But you can order with a person right there, that you don't have to really think about the problem of your phone not working and that being your only way into ordering, which, yeah.
Bringing your drinks, you just do everything from the Universal app. Now, one of the problems with this was when we were sitting there eating, the app was not functioning properly, which was causing a ton of problems with people just simply being able to order food. And it was funny because there's like 100 staff members just standing there waiting to do stuff, but
Okay, so this is the problem of training. So I have been in a couple situations where I was on a job and a lot of restaurants are transitioning to being more app focused, just as he mentions here. And I was doing a job for one such location where they were doing training for the new apps that they were starting to use and implementing into their systems to process ordering and process tables and like putting put people out onto the floor, onto the dining area. And if the app breaks, all of a sudden you've got a problem. But you've got to have a backup solution or training in order to be able to still function as a business. The problem that here, when you've got 100 staff members that you're still paying and your app doesn't work, is you're wasting money now because you didn't implement a system to get those people actually doing things. When you can see you've got like people lined up, a full floor and everything else, you're troubleshooting the app instead of actually serving people. And now you've got customers that are irritated that they're not being served. Now, there could be other similar situations where I've been in a situation where I was working on a job at a different place where I was switching out point of sale systems and a customer got mad and like, hey, are you guys not open? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not the guy that does, like, I don't take orders. I'm just here to take care of the payment stuff. But I can find someone that can like help serve you. And they were just there. They didn't, because they don't understand what's going on. And the person that they're staring at may not necessarily work there, but they're doing a job for the location. So it kind of becomes a back and forth of, well, I can see someone's there and they're doing something, but when you're sitting there and you're looking at like a gaggle of staff members that aren't doing anything and the app isn't functioning, that becomes a process of we do not have proper planning in place. And so we are wasting money, making customers unhappy, and we're not serving the people that are there. And that's kind of what we end up losing out when we rely on technology too much, is the whole person-to-person thing that actually can be the thing that makes the money for us.
Because the app isn't functioning properly, all of a sudden, no one can get their food. And then once it started working, people were already agitated, obviously. But I just heard people groaning and moaning and saying, I just wish someone would come up to the table so I can, I have a question about this entree, or I want to get a specific thing and I can't figure out how to do it in the app. And these are people of all ages, like I said. And for me, I wanted just a cup of water as well.
Okay, so this is, again, another issue of poor customer service because you're relying on the app way too much. Taco Bell has done kind of a similar thing in reality, is you go up to the kiosk, you tap in your order, and if you want to pay with cash, they don't exactly make it very clear when you pay for your order, but you have to pay for your order right after you go up to the counter. It's like, hey, I could use some service here. I get, apparently. And so that you can pay for your order and then they can make your order. And that just becomes like, wouldn't it just be easier to just have a person taking the order, putting it in, making sure that like everything's right, and then moving on with life? Because then that person can take the money and this, that, and the other. But it's like, well, it simplifies it because most people are going to be paying cashless or without any of that extra fluff. And in a lot of ways, that's where a lot of people do that. But for those people that still pay in cash, it kind of is a degraded experience because you're using an antiquated way of paying. You don't want to like participate in our cashless payment system. So, well, we're going to give you a slightly lower quality experience because of how you're paying. Whereas you can go to other places and get the same exact experience that you're going to get as everyone else, no matter how you pay.
But on the app, there was no place on the menu to just order a cup of water with your drink as well. And I saw a water dispenser right behind the counter, so I knew they had it. And I was sitting there just saying, why can I not just have a server? So that QR technology to try to say, no, we don't need servers anymore is making our lives more annoying. Then another thing we had was I was trying to use YouTube TV, which...
Oh, a big mistake. I've got a couple recommendations, but anyway.
I tried to sign on in it, and it wasn't working, and I realized, oh, well, YouTube TV is its own app. I can't just access it from YouTube. I don't know why, but it is what it is. I was like, all right, I downloaded the app. I go to log in. It gives me a QR code on the TV screen. I'm like, all right, I'll scan it with my phone. And then I went to sign in on the phone. And then it said I have to scan another QR code that is on my phone to double, the two-factor authenticate that it's actually me signing in.
This is where... Once you get into it, by that time, it's like it's just easier to open it up on your phone and cast to your TV, honestly.
And I live by myself. I don't have another phone to scan the QR code, and the other option was glitching and not working. So I missed an entire NBA playoffs game because I could not simply log into YouTube TV. So these things that, originally started off as fantastic, like, trying to give alternate methods, trying to make things better, is in fact making our lives more complicated and far more stressful.
There are 15 standards to do something. Now we have to create a new standard to do it to unify all the standards. Now there are 16 standards of doing something.
And then the things that we thought were incredible, like the big thing I'm going to use is streaming services. We thought, oh man, when Netflix came out, everyone could not wait to cut the cord and get on Netflix. But that has slowly degraded into something terrible because there is now what turned from Netflix and Hulu basically being the only thing has now turned into a million different streaming sites, shows jumping between streaming services. No one knows where anything is. When I want to watch something, oh, it's, not on Netflix anymore. It's on Peacock or Prime Video or something like that. And it's making people, honestly, miss for the days of cable, dare I say.
So the other problem is with these services is you can pay for an individual piece of media on these services, like Prime Video. And in a lot of cases, you may have paid for it, but because of the terms of service of that particular site, not going to say platform, but site, they can remove that because of licensing problems or what have you from your library. There are certain services like Steam and GOG that work really hard to make sure that you keep what you paid for, what's in your library. Even though they remove it from the storefront, they will leave it in your library. There are multiple games that I have on GOG, on Steam that are still in my library that have been pulled from the storefront. And that's because, one, their commitment to like preserving what you have actually paid for. And two, because they want you to have a good experience. Whereas sometimes it feels like some of these services don't care, and due to their predatory terms of service that they can change at will ad nauseum, they just remove it because, or they change it because of the way that, of whatever reason that they feel necessary. The problem that you ran into with Netflix early on is that, yes, everybody was excited to have Netflix. It was really convenient, everything in one place. It was kind of the same way with Steam for quite a bit. And then all these other companies started building their own clients. And then it's like, well, it looks like we're done for. But even then, with some of those others, like, even EA with EA Origin, EA eventually went back to putting their stuff up on Steam. There are a lot of these companies that have gone back to like, yeah, we've got to like go through Steam still in order to get really good sales, because Valve has provided an experience that has kind of surpassed a lot of other experiences when it comes to purchasing your games and like downloading and installing your games. They've put a lot of work into it, to include now being able to play those games on Linux and just making the game work in general. So that's where a lot of people have ditched physical media, but then physical media becomes way more valuable because you're not beholden to a company saying you can't have this, or we're going to make this retroactive change to the media after the fact, even though you bought it before this case, or we're going to change the service that we're doing, or we're making our own complete own streaming service, and we're going to remove our media from this service that you love so much. You've got the media right there, and you are in control of it. And that's what we've lost with a lot of the digital media, is control of our media. Whereas companies like GOG are trying to change that and make it so that you can control your media, even though they are a digital distribution platform. I can download the installer, back it up onto a server, and have it there for whenever I want it, and update those installers as needs be. But then I can always still access it online. But I have control of that installer, so I can install it wherever I want to without being online at all, even.
I saw, I think, a YouTuber named Sean. I'll put his video in the description, talking about how he misses cable TV. And even when I am using these streaming services, I've realized that I just miss simply just turning the TV on, something starts playing, and I just click through, and it's there. Not like having such an insane amount of choice honestly paralyzes me to pick what I'm trying to watch. Sometimes I just want...
This is the same thing with new people trying to pick a Linux distro, and that's where they ask for recommendations, and where it's like, when you have someone that's more knowledgeable in the space and they're actually trying to help the person have the best experience. Like, when I get asked, like, what would you recommend for me using, I usually ask, what kind of things do you want to do? What's your comfort level with certain things? And then I will recommend based on that.
To see something and say, oh, it's on, I'll see what it is. So even these applications and new ways of doing things, while it started off fantastic and made our lives incredible, are slowly turning into things that, we didn't sign up for, and things that are making our lives more complicated now and more just annoying when you're turning your TV. Now, the streaming services are probably more expensive than just getting cable at this point if you want to watch all these shows. And then the last thing is AI. Now, I think ChatGPT is incredible.
The AI thing has been incredible when it comes to search aggregation, because when your model actually references something and provides a link for it properly where you can go back and look at it, it means you can easily verify what it's saying. which is really handy. And you can even, if you've got a long form thing that it spits out to you, I've done this with Grok a couple times, you can ask it to just create a concise list of all the references that you can go and like search through yourself, and it'll do that for you.
I use it for searching and, finding information. But AI being forced into everything, like drive-thrus, that's an annoying experience in itself. I think I even talked about an experience I had with that in a prior video. But AI being shoved into everything to try to replace humans makes things so clunky and annoying. Because
we've seen this with like the AI girlfriend thing. And I remember it was back during SaintCon. It kind of like after the fact. It was, after SaintCon had finished up for the day, I was kind of back where I was staying, and I was talking with someone about kind of some of this, where it's like, well, AI is being used for this, that, and the other. Kids are going to grow up with AI and the AI girlfriend thing, but there's going to be this natural yearning for human interaction. And to some extent, AI will fill that in, but we're going to eventually find a point where it's going to be harmful to us trying to replace every human interaction with AI because we're just not built for it. And we're going to find so many damaging things because the AI can process the data that we give it and everything about us to tailor it to exactly what we want, and then eventually can be used to manipulate us into doing things that we wouldn't normally do. We've already seen cases of this with like AI girlfriend apps, and like look at the AI social media apps and what they have. It's like, oh, you can create your own feed where you are the like prime influencer and all your commenters are AI bots, basically, that are locally there, or well, rather processed by some server out in someone else's server and then sent back to your phone. And so you get this curated like dopamine fix and endorphin fix from AI bots, and these aren't real people, and it's gonna, like, much more so than social media now, it could be even more damaging in the future.
If I was just speaking to a human, the task I'm trying to do would get done in like 10 seconds, but instead I have to sit there on the phone or sit there in person for like 10 minutes to just get a simple question answered. And I can tell that people are just overall annoyed by it, because before, when new technology came out, unless you were really old, it was an exciting thing. Like, people were excited to see what the new thing is, how is this going to help our life. But now I'm seeing when a new technology comes out, people are more like, oh my goodness, how is this going to affect our life? In a bad way, not a good way. I think a recent one was the push to try to get VR and AR to be a huge thing. And the general public said, nah, I'm good with that. I don't want to wear goggles on my head to take me out of reality. And I think just technology as a whole has kind of plateaued. And every new way they try to, reinvent the wheel is making things far more complicated and just honestly ruining people's days.
So, on that last part, I think when you look at the larger big tech evolutions, that's very true. You can see smaller tech that's actually doing things to solve these problems. And again, in a lot of ways, like I commented here, I think this is why a lot of people end up moving to Linux, or more people have started to move to Linux, is because of the overcomplication of things getting shoved in your face, being told, the burden of being told what you can and can't do with something that you bought, and just not being able to get anything done and losing files repeatedly because of updates, or being forced to update and like not being able to get any work done because, well, we have to update right now and this, that, and the other. They create more invasive ways to get into your life, but then also take away some of your freedom to do what you want with the devices you own, whereas you could have more privacy with your device. You could have less of the invasive things on your device. You don't need ads on your desktop. You can just have a desktop and not have your OS phoning home all the time to tell Microsoft or Apple what you're doing. If you liked the content, if you enjoyed it, if you think I deserve it, like, comment, subscribe, leave any criticisms you have or what have you. I appreciate it. Feed that algorithm, like I said, and I will see you guys in the next one.